listening to Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
That's right, happy March, Forgers, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 111, Make a Wish, of HeroesForge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. As always, this podcast is brought to you by our outstanding supporters on patreon.com/HeroesForge. I am your show host, Jeff Reynolds, and I'm here with the co-host of the show, just like every week, but this week, she is more awesome than a clutter-free computer desktop. It's Kristen Ashton.
Those exist.
They do exist.
Did you go on a cleaning spree this past week, Jeff?
You know, I always feel like I saw this really great meme that was like, there are two types of people, and then it showed two desktops, and one was like pristine with nothing on it, and then the other one, you know, had a million things and you couldn't even see the background. I am the latter. I am actually a pretty clean desktop person for some weird reason. I think I have definite computer OCD.
You're one of those, you've got the little wipes that, and every day you wipe it down.
I do. I don't wipe it down every day, but I do have the wipes.
Yep. Well, I remember in the office, I had to keep ordering those, and I never understood why. I was just like, why do they need these lemon-scented wipes all the time? But let me tell you, if you don't order what those girls want in that office, you are enemy number one. And I mean, though the wipes were a pretty big deal, it was the coffee.
Really?
Get the coffee they wanted for their little Keurig. Oh, you would hear about it, even though you're trying to take care of customers. Coffee.
Very interesting. I'm not high maintenance when it comes to a lot of those other things, but I do like my computer to be super clean. And, you know, have you ever been in that position where you're looking down at your keyboard and you're just like, especially, you know, after like a long spree, as Kristen looks at her keyboard right now, after a long spree of gaming or, you know, just, you know, new Warcraft expansion or whatever, and you're like, wow, man, this keyboard is disgusting.
Oh, yes. The letters are wiped off. F is a broken line. ASD does not exist. W and E don't exist. Q looks like a C with a line coming out of the bottom. And yeah, we're missing half the letters.
Well, it doesn't matter if the letters are there or not. I mean, as long as the buttons work, that's all that really matters. Lots of stuff going on in the world, as always. Let's talk about those Enforcer skins. I mean, is that an instant purchase for you like it is for me?
I think the Greymane is definitely an instant purchase because his coiffed hair is amazing, and then they got the shades, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and he turns into like a dog instead of a worgen, you know, that whole thing. I mean, it's great. It's really cool. I have some thoughts about the Morales skin. I think it's very difficult for them to make Morales, because of the silhouette that they've built with like the armor going on. It's difficult for them to really change what she looks like, and they're clearly trying that with this Enforcer skin, I think. But I also just see the skin and think, oh, well, because they had to keep her silhouette, they like randomly patched on these patches of armor that make her, I mean, it's very interesting.
Oh, it's very true. And I have no doubt in my mind her skin is a big fan service, because not too long ago we got one of those profile images with her face. And so her face has been teased, but now finally the fans who are true Morales fans and would take care of her until her dying days, they finally get their little wife, Morales.
Good. It's a great skin. It's a really, really cool thing. And I do remember that profile picture going back, and people are like, oh, that's like Morales outside of her armor. That's really cool to be able to see, because she's not someone that you can, you know, just see without having this cool skin. So the Enforcer skins are on their way to the Nexus. Super cool video. If you haven't seen it for some reason, head on over to the Heroes of the Storm YouTube page and check out the little intro video and the awesome music. I think the music makes it. I mean, the mix is great.
Oh, it's so much fun. And on top of that, too, the sprays that are coming with it. That nice little red, white, and blue color scheme, but it's kind of 80s at the same time. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's super cool. What do you think about the Sonya rework coming? I know you play a lot of Sonya. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling pretty good. I got to join Kyle Ferguson Tuesday as we went into the PTR and kind of messed around with Sonya. And though I'm not entirely sure how it's going to go as things settle in once the changes actually happen, I think a lot of people are going to claim she's OP because her seismic slam build that's now built into this new thing is incredible. The damage it does, the range it allows you to reach, it's phenomenal. And then on top of that, if you don't want to go kind of seismic slam, you can also go with this Merc build. They took away Merc Lord and they instead gave her this activatable trait where when you hit it, it's got 3 stacks of a heal. And it's not a small heal either. It's a very significant heal that you just activate whenever. And on top of this, as a passive, you deal more damage to mercs.
Huh. Okay, so in your opinion, you think we won't see any decrease in the amount of single lane Sonyas?
Correct. If anything, we'll see more single lane Sonyas, and we'll see Sonyas that get very aggressive with camp taking.
Oh, I dig it. Very cool. I need to pick up Sonya because I think I would really like it. I believe it or not, Sonya is one of the heroes that I have never played. I mean, I played her, of course, to get to level 5 back when that was a thing, but I never play Sonya. I don't know if it's just the feel of a character that isn't really in my wheelhouse, but I need to get on this because everybody's talking about the rework, and I knew you'd have some awesome thoughts since you're like the best Sonya player I know. Speaking of new things coming in here, we have a new Overwatch hero was announced. This is a big deal. This is not like when a new Heroes of the Storm hero is announced every 3 to 4 weeks, right? I mean, this is a big deal for a game like Overwatch to implement a new hero. And is it Brigitte? I guess that would be the French way of saying it.
C'est Brigitte.
Aha. So super cool. Daughter of Torbjorn, I believe, coming in with like a mini Reinhardt shield, an awesome flail looking type weapon. I mean, she's badass looking.
Yeah, and she's a support. She's a melee support on top of it, which is very, very interesting. But more excitedly, for Christmas, I got her shirt that says, I like to exercise because I love to eat. So for the past 3 months, I've been working out in this shirt. And then to hear that Brigitte is being brought into Overwatch officially brings a little tear to my eye as I work out. It gives me more strength.
That's right. I mean, that's cool. I didn't know they were selling the shirt beforehand. I mean, I guess that would be a super super spoiler alert for before this hero is announced by Blizzard. I mean, she looks really cool, and I love playing supports. I don't play a lot of Overwatch, but I'm definitely going to get in there and try it. For those of you out there that may not know, if you haven't picked up Overwatch before, you can get out in there and play any of the heroes you want. It is a game that it doesn't require you to purchase the heroes like Heroes of the Storm. So get in there and play all of the characters and check out this new one that's coming to the world of Overwatch. And maybe someday, which by maybe I mean definitely someday, we'll be talking about her on this show to see if she would be a viable character to bring to the Nexus. So stay tuned for that. Someday it will be around. Also, something you should stay tuned for and be stay tuned for is the Divinity 2 stream we've been talking about every week. I believe we have reached the final chapter of this, and I think we've walked in to that final boss battle. Who knows how long it's going to go or how many bosses there will be, but we are continuing the battle today at 2 o'clock Pacific, 2 o'clock p.m. that is, on twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson on his stream there, and come watch the epic conclusion, or so we think. And we thought this game has ended a bunch of times, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, Kristen, it did that whole thing that games do where it's like, you're walking in there, so we're going to give you a lot of power, and then this is probably the end.
Yeah, also there's the warning box that said, this is the point of no return. Once you do this, you can't go back. Also, it's not over till the God King is introduced. I am convinced this is not the end. I think someone's been infected, and I think Justinian or whatever his name is has lied to us because he claimed we were the only source left. But what about the ghosts? What about all of the source vats and puddles we came across in the world? And he claims we are the last bit of source?
Yeah, I'm hoping that there is some sort of crazy, for lack of a better way of explaining it, like Belial battle at the end, right? Where this, some giant entity. I mean, the fight that we just started, and thanks to me, I had to go last week. So we just started the final battle and then we had to save and end it, which was super painful. But the fight that we're about to get into at the end here looks like just one of your normal battles. I mean, we're fighting some people. It's like turn-based, it's like this thing. But I'm hoping that when this all happens, same thing as what you were talking about, that some huge monstrous creature comes flying out of somewhere and we have to take it down. Maybe it's just because I'm irking for an action-type Diablo battle, though.
Oh, totally. And I mean, what about the monster, that Leviathan thing? That's the God King, right?
Who knows? We have lots of unanswered questions in that game. It's definitely worth playing a bunch of times, and it's definitely worth checking out the stream today at 2 o'clock. It's a ton of fun, and there is a lot of funny stuff that happens during the stream, so make sure you check it out. Let's do what we're here to do on this lovely Sunday afternoon, and let's forge.
Let's forge.
That's right, just like every week, we are talking about characters that aren't in Heroes of the Storm yet and how we would bring them to life, just our theory crafting on what we think these characters would be like if we brought them into the Nexus. This week is no different, and Kristen, who are we forging this week on the show?
This week, we are taking on the most beloved of the Western Plagueland quest givers, at least to the Horde, Nathanos Blightcaller.
I did read a comment on Wowhead that said, if the Alliance knew how funny this guy was, they wouldn't try to go in and kill him all the time.
Yeah, those assassination attempts, that's bad. That's bad, Alliance. Why? Why? Nathanos isn't... He just wants to have fun and insult people.
That's right. I mean, there are a ton of insults if you look at all of the quest quotes. Quotes is the word I'm looking for here. There's a ton of different kinds of insults and funny things he says to you. Even if you battle him, he says some crazy stuff. But I picked it this week, and I'll tell you why I picked it. Because I've been getting into Battle for Azeroth, right? I've been watching all the cutscenes, doing my Alliance deal, and then I usually go in and check out the Horde cutscenes because I want to see what they look like and what their perspective is, so that I can deepen my bias for the Alliance. So I go in there and I watch the Horde cutscene, and there's this just a killer looking model. This guy is so cool looking, like this undead guy with red eyes, and he just sits there all silent at Sylvanas' table as everyone else is, talking to each other and shooting the crap with each other. He's just sitting there all like, broody and undead like, and I'm like, this guy is so cool. Who the hell is that?
Well, now you know, right? He's a dude. He wasn't anyone special, to begin with. He was just a fun side character. Well, you read stories, too, where apparently the Horde would protect this NPC from Alliance invaders that were tasked with assassinating him and cleaning up the Plaguelands. And right. Now he's kind of been retconned a bit. And Legion introduced this in what felt like a kind of natural way. It didn't feel weird or anything. But the books kind of took it in a weird way.
Yeah, they did. I mean, after doing all of the research on where he is and, all of his stuff. Now, there is an official short story from Blizzard that involves Nathanos, and it's recent. I mean, it came out with the Legion deal, and so that's really cool. But I know what you mean about the lore coming from some of the novels. Let's get into the lore now. Let's get a background, Kristen, on his place in World of Warcraft, and maybe a love interest question mark.
Well, I may have left that one at the door. Novels, they should at least kiss. That is my requirement. Girls want kisses. All right. We'll bring this back. I'll bring this back at some point. All right, Nathanos Blightcaller originally served as a much-loved quest giver and insult spewer in the Western Plaguelands. He had been killed by Ramstein the Gorger and resurrected by Sylvanas Windrunner where he was then left on Marris Stead, his home in life, to continue the fight against the remaining Scourge. Following an assassination attempt by the Alliance, he made his way to Undercity, serving as the hunter-trainer. Nothing of note happened after that until the events of Legion, where it was heavily hinted that Blightcaller was a lot closer to the Banshee Queen than was initially implied. When she is elected war chief, he was there by her side. When she disappeared off the coast of Stormheim, he led the charge to find her. As for his future, only the Battle of Azeroth will tell.
Now, you have to forgive me here, and maybe you don't know the answer to this question either, but, I always pictured being an Alliance player that Sylvanas was the head of the Forsaken. Is that a appropriate assumption?
Yes, she was head of the Forsaken, and she went around rezzing anybody that she could find in order to get this army together to take vengeance, or at least stop the Scourge and take Arthas down at some point.
Aha, so now that Sylvanas is war chief of the Horde, is Nathanos the person that is taking that position and becoming the leader of the Forsaken, or is there someone else there that's kind of fulfilling that role, or is it still Sylvanas? It's just like a weird thing?
It's still Sylvanas. It's always been Sylvanas. And as far as I'm concerned, until they kill her off, it will always be Sylvanas. So Nathanos in Legion, you had a great time with him in the Western Plaguelands, and he wasn't anyone special except a dude who was rezzed, just like the rest of us Forsaken, who's trying to make their way in this crazy world. But then Legion comes along, and suddenly he's obsessed with the Banshee Queen, and he's just searching for her as best he can, and he's desperate to find her. So it's one of those, I guess they kind of crushed on each other now that they're both undead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the love story there. And I mean, she even invites him to the table, the dinner, where, they're making toasts to defeating the Legion. It's all the heads of state, basically, that are sitting at this table, and Nathanos is there. That's where I got the idea that maybe he was, like, the leader of the Forsaken, but I would feel the same way, that Sylvanas is probably still the leader of the Forsaken, and maybe she has reciprocating feelings for this guy, and is like, hey, you want to go to this dinner with me? And he's like, meh, okay.
Right, teehee. So the reason I'm jesting at the novels is because it's taking it back to when they were both alive. And that's just kind of weird, because when you first meet him, he's just a dude in the Plaguelands. It feels much more natural if instead he was pulled into this whole thing because he tried to be assassinated. She pulled him back to Undercity, and there a romance blossomed.
Yeah, I like that better too. I like that. Let's stick with that as we move forward. And again, he's in Battle for Azeroth, obviously, and he's got a brand new model in the game, and it looks so cool. Check it out on Wowhead on the, or if you want to watch the Horde cinematic for the Legion epilogue, check it out, because it is super, super cool. He doesn't say anything, which is interesting, but it is very, very neat. So let's get into a build. How do we bring this guy into Heroes of the Storm? I'll go first this week, and the first thing we always talk about starting this thing off is the role classification, and I'm going with an assassin, Kristen, like a straight-on assassin. He's a hunter trainer. I think it fits really well with assassin, and I want him to be ranged and melee, kind of like Genji, right? So if Genji's far away, he's throwing his little stars, and when he gets closer, he pulls out his sword. Same kind of feel.
Yeah, I like it. So how would he do ranged and how would he do melee? And would it switch between the two, kind of like Greymane does, where if you're close enough, he hits you with his cane, but if you're far enough away, he shoots you with his pistol?
Yeah, I think it works just like that. I think his ranged attack is a bow, and maybe it's a shorter auto attack than a Sylvanas bow, which is pretty quick in there. But they both are rangers, right? And Nathanos is the first Dark Ranger to come as a human.
He is. He, according to the books at least, spent time with the elves, studying how to be a ranger and studying the art of forbidden love.
And mastering the art of forbidden love.
We don't know if he mastered it. That still has yet to be released in the books. So I say if we get another book and they want to go whole ham in this retcon, you confirm he mastered it or he didn't master it.
I love it. It's very, very entertaining and funny. So yeah, like that. So I think he's got a bow attack for his ranged attack, and then in his form that you can fight him in Warcraft, he's got these two like one-handed meat choppers, right? So maybe he has those sorts of things as you get closer to him, and he's trying to whack you with those.
I like that. So kind of an influence with the male demon hunter a bit from Diablo 3, because that's kind of the feel, right? An undead-ish type of hunter.
Yeah, totally. I think that would be super cool. And I love your drawing a conclusion with the Greymane thing. I mean, not only do the animators in Heroes of the Storm have to animate Greymane's ranged attack, but then it has to switch over to a melee attack too. That is super, super neat, and I bet it takes a lot of time. So again, here we're just creating more work for people. And speaking of more work, let's talk about his trait over on my side. It's called Dark Mirror, which I think we're going to have a lot of great minds moments in these builds here. And Dark Mirror is his trait on this assassin build. In this kit, I wanted to make Nathanos a carry assassin that has the ability to gain massive physical damage output with the help of his team. So this trait is going to allow him to conjure the dark mirror that Sylvanas uses to empower his once weak body. Nathanos can activate this trait to summon the mirror on the battlefield in any location. Nathanos can move the mirror in the same way that a Murky can move his egg around. So what's the significance of this mirror? Allies of Nathanos can click on the mirror and activate it like a healing fountain, but the difference here is that they will lose health for each time that they activate it, which is going to in turn feed a damage buff for Nathanos. If the mirror is destroyed by the enemy, Nathanos will fall on the battlefield. So you're sacrificing your own well-being in order to buff Nathanos because he's going to be this badass carry assassin.
Oh man, so is this a permanent buff that he gets?
No, I think it lives on you just for a select amount of time, and you'll kind of see as we go through some of these basic abilities on how it interacts with some of them. But yeah, so let's say that ETC goes up to the mirror, activates it, loses a little bit of health, maybe Nathanos gets one stack of this buff, and it just rides for maybe 30 seconds on there. So if all 4 other players do it, then he's got his maximum buff for whatever period of time in between the first one and the last one.
Oh, totally. And then can you, as an ally, channel for as long as you want, or you just click it and it takes an immediate percentage?
I think it's just like a healing fountain in the respect of you just walk up to it, click it, just like drinking from a healing fountain, maybe like some embers come out or some demonic energy comes out and grabs a part of your soul, so to speak, and takes your health away. I mean, think about the strats with this, where you want to have a healer with you that could heal you back up after the sacrifices you'd have to make right before you went into a team fight. I kind of picture Nathanos with this ranger mindset where you're planning every single battle that you have. So before this team fight happens, you drop down your dark mirror, everybody buffs you up, and then you're ready to go into this battle even though you've taken a little bit of damage.
Oh, I like this. And you better hope your Nathanos player knows who to target with this buff, especially since it's only got a few seconds. And also, what kind of team would you want to protect the mirror? Because if you drop that before the fight, it's just going to stay there like a Murky egg, right?
Yeah, so you really want to make sure they don't take that mirror out to take out Nathanos, but then there's a strat on the other side of trying to bait somebody into trying to destroy the mirror, so on and so forth. There could be some really cool ideas along with something like this. And again, you're putting it into the hands of the other players to make you stronger, right? You're not going to get in voice chat and be like, yo, Nathanos, why aren't you doing super damage? It's because you guys aren't feeding the mirror. So feed the mirror and I'll get in there and do some damage.
Yeah, and I like that you incorporate voice chat, so something this complicated would absolutely work now.
Oh, yeah, I think that voice chat, and I had a really good voice chat experience the other day. My first one, and this is something I've been hearing from a lot of different people, is that their voice chat experiences have been stellar, like super cool. I mean, I was afraid to get in there too because I don't want to sound like an idiot, but in the end of the day, that's not going to change. So I get in there, I play some games, I get in. Man, it's great. It's been really great for me. I think everybody, for the majority of people on there, are feeling the same way that I am. And they're like, do I want to do this? And then you end up winning because you're communicating with each other.
Yeah, exactly. You just plug your nose and you jump. We all have anxiety about it. But the hardest one is your first one. Once you've done it that first time, that's it. You did it. Congratulations, you survived, and you probably had a great time.
Yeah, and it's so easy to mute and unmute people and do stuff. But the reason I brought this all up is because I think that it definitely opens up some awesome play and some awesome ideas that maybe they couldn't incorporate before because they're sitting behind the table and they're thinking, my goodness, there's no way that anybody would be able to interact with this. I think Medivh's portals are right on the cusp of that. Like, you've got to be playing with somebody to maximize that knows exactly where you're going to be putting those portals and what you're doing. And, you know, with voice chat, this may be a total off the wall prediction, but I think Medivh's win rate, not to mention he's getting a different kit, but I think his win rate is going to go up with voice chat, because I think you can say, I'm putting a portal here and it's going there, or take the portal, or the portal's up in 3 seconds, or whatever it is, without having to ping your abilities. And I could stand on this soapbox all day.
Oh, totally. And do it, man. I support you. I absolutely support. And I completely agree. I think Medivh is now extremely viable in solo play.
Yeah, especially with that voice why am I saying voice activated? I don't know where my brain is today. You know, it's been sucked into the dark mirror. All right, let's get on to the mounting and how we're going to, what mount would come with Nathanos if he was to join the Nexus. Kristen, I got to put a little bit of Divinity 2 love in here, and I think he's going to be riding the Bone Widow, which is basically a giant black widow made of human skeleton parts.
It's amazing, and it's got its little fangs, and it hits like a truck. I mean, Bone Widow is not something to be reckoned with. Would he be able to fire arrows off of the back of Bone Widow?
Gosh, wouldn't that be cool? I mean, we have talked about that. I think we forged Illyria on the show about a year ago, and we talked about how cool it would be to have a hero that was able to do that. Like, stay mounted and use one of your basic abilities and it wouldn't unmount you. I can't imagine that is not something that is on their mind, right? I mean, that would give you the speed, the feel of a ranger, that really cool thing. I didn't incorporate that into this kit, but I want it.
Yep, it's the mounted horseback, right? The Mongol horde kind of thing,
right,
where you fire when all 4 hooves are off the ground for the most steady shot, and it would be amazing. But of course, the question is, would they have speed? Would they not have speed? How do you make it feel like you're just this semi barreling into piles of soft feathers?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want it to feel like. You want to just be, you know, dominating with speed on horseback. So I love it. Let's get into some basic abilities on this kit. My first one is called High Ground. Speaking of things exactly related to this. So Dark Rangers are nimble and masters of the bow. When this is activated, Nathanos will leap into the air and fire a damage-dealing blight arrow that deals massive amounts of damage to the enemy. Nathanos can also use this ability to traverse the terrain, similar to the way that Hanzo does with his leap, but this is directly connected to a basic ability here. So Nathanos' leap, he'll go in the direction that he's moving, but he can fire the arrow in any targeted direction. So it would take a lot of practice to be, you know, click to move your character to a certain place. Once you get to that place, if you want to jump while you're doing it, you can activate this ability, but whatever direction your mouse cursor is pointing is the direction that the arrow is going to go as he jumps into the air. So this is going to be directly related to his Dark Mirror trait. So he can shoot this damage dealing arrow further, and it does more damage the more people that have sacrificed to the Dark Mirror.
Oh, so okay, so with this jump ability, can you fire your arrow and then decide to jump, just in case everyone hasn't given you the power you need to single target, delete, and leaming? Or do you have to jump before firing the arrow in order to close the distance really quickly?
I think you are firing it as you jump. So if it was happening like this, you would hit Q. As soon as you hit Q, he would jump into the air. You don't activate it again, but whatever direction your mouse cursor is pointing is where he's going to shoot that arrow. So you got to be really quick, and it would take a lot of practice to, you know, I'm going to jump over this wall, then I'm going to jump over the wall, but as I'm jumping, it's going to fire the arrow because my mouse is pointing in a different direction than the one that I selected.
Oh, he would be amazing on shrines with all of those little walls you can jump from behind. And usually your team has great sight of the lanes. So if you need to get back to that chromie, you just jump fire, and she's gone. Of course, assuming people buffed your ability.
That's right. So you're depending on them to make you stronger. So the second basic ability is called Blighthounds. And if you've ever gone and attacked Nathanos, you know he's got these undead blight dogs that fight with him. I mean, they really look like hyenas. I think they're the hyena model, but they're called Blighthounds in the game. So when this is activated, 2 Blighthounds will come to the aid of Nathanos, but not in a traditional way. What's going to happen is they're going to dash in from the sides of the battle and deal damage to all enemies that are in the path. The path that they dash in is in the shape of an X on the battlefield, so similar to Genji's vault, right? They're going to dash in this X right across each other. The player will see the location of the X before activating it, and once activated, the Blighthounds will charge in and deal their damage. Once they reach the end of the path, they'll disappear, just waiting for the next ability activation. So if you took the hound idea out of this and you just made it lasers for the sake here, you're just going to have 2 lasers that are going to shoot across the battlefield like that, and after they shoot across the battlefield, they're gone. So the dogs don't hang out with you. They're just going to go in that path and then disappear.
Oh, perfect. Kind of like Rexar's ultimate with the boars, right? They just show up, do their thing, and then they're gone. So if they hit somebody at the center of this X, do they do more damage to that person? Or is it simply just single damage for the line?
I think if they get hit in the center, they're getting hit by both Blighthounds, so they get double damage maybe.
Oh, nice. So kind of like a stack thing. So if you can manage to hit 2 people or 1 person with 2 Blighthounds because maybe they run into one path and then end up hitting the other path, you get that double damage.
Yeah, you'd have to be really fast to do that though in my mind, because these are going to be like, whew, like maybe it's that fast. Maybe they just run straight in and it just lasts for that long. That technical term of measurement there, maybe it lasts for exactly that long.
I like that. It's a good measurement, right? Maybe we should have a form of measurement where it's based on sound effects, because it makes sense in our minds, you know?
Totally.
You make the good sound, you got it. You know exactly how fast it'll be.
All right, well, speaking of shrines here, I think this third basic ability is really gonna fit in that as well. It's called Shadowcraft, right? So Dark Rangers are similar to the High Elves, but they focus on Shadowcraft more than nature. So when Nathanos enters a bush or a vent, he can activate this ability to instantly transport to a nearby vent or bush, allowing him to confuse the enemy team or to reposition. So the range of this ability would be no longer than the width of a lane, but the range is extended with each trait stack Nathanos has. So more you sacrifice to the Dark Mirror, the further bushes he can transport to. Just imagine coming in on Dragon Shrine, right? And you're down on the bottom one and there's those 2 bushes that are there. You can go in through the bush on the left, start fighting, pretend like you're going to escape out. As soon as you hit that bush, transport yourself to the bush on the right and you pop up Shadowcraft style right behind them and you're ready to brawl.
This is so rogue. I am in love with this idea. This is so rogue. And I mean, Dahaka's got his bush stock, and we already know how oppressive that can feel. So the ability to jump from vents in a similar area is kind of like that, except you take away the movement speed ability because you should be planning to already place yourself in a favorable position.
Totally. And you know, Dahaka's is global and it would take time to wind up with Dahaka where you have to burrow to get to the other place. This I want to be instant, but not be anywhere near global. I mean, I think that right there is a perfect example of how long I think it should be base. But if you're stronger, if you're more empowered, then you can go further, which even throws a whole nother layer of confusion on the enemy. Like, they're not sure how stacked you are with your trait, how far you're going to be able to teleport, basically, with these bushes and vents. I mean, it's cool. It feels cool to me.
Yeah, totally. And would there be an RLQ to the enemy as to where you pop up, or would this just be totally silent?
I think it's just fast and not silent. Maybe it makes a noise, but it's almost instant. So, like, you walk into a bush and maybe it's just like, if we're going with sounds here, maybe you walk into that bush and it's just like, and you're back in the other bush, like that fast. Of course, it's on a cooldown. You can't just jump back and forth and be all crazy. But if you use it at the right time, I mean, coming in there, maybe you throw your blight hounds out and they go and they hit the enemy. They're trying to retreat. You can pursue them this way, or you can use it as an escape, or to just confuse them.
Oh, dude, yeah, this thing's amazing. Oh, I love this idea of a hero that jumps from vents nearby, and it's a faster thing. You don't have to globally plan it or keep your eyes on the map. You simply have to watch your lane, and you become this spooker, right? Like you said, deal a lot of damage up front. They get kind of scared and they back up, but you're already behind them, there to deal the final blow, which means they can't get back to their towers.
Yeah, and we see it with some heroes now, like Nathanael. That's probably like why you like playing Nathanael, because that's got a very similar idea to it, where you're able to teleport to them on the other side. So that fast is what I really think it would be. So let's get into some heroics here. The first one is called Bursting Shot. So Nathanos, I mean, he's a hunter at heart, so he's going to stand still with this Bursting Shot heroic, and he's going to fire a volley of arrows in a cone shape in front of him. These explosive arrows deal damage to the enemy and push them back with each explosion. So the arrows are going to explode when they hit a target or when they reach the end of their flight path. If Nathanos has full stacks from his trait and all friendly heroes have sacrificed health to give him a buff, this ability, it allows the explosions to light up vents or bushes that are in the area that prevent the enemy from entering them without taking damage. So maybe that's a whole lot. Like, as I read it right now, I wanted the ability for us to be able to manipulate those hidden spots, right? What if you could light those vents or bushes on fire, and if somebody goes in them, they take damage?
That's pretty nice. A denial of area. And we all know how powerful that is, especially on the maps where you are focused into one tiny section. Cursed Hollow, for instance, kind of forces grouping, which is really sad for the team that groups, but awesome for the team that's got the CC to take advantage of it.
Totally. So this is kind of like a Stukov arm flail swing, which is, going out. He pulls these arrows out, and he's firing basically from left to right in a long-ranged cone, like bop, 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 bop from left to right, and just anytime that they hit something, they're going to explode and do a bit of a pushback. Maybe the explosion even works kind of like a ETC push around, where if you're on a certain side of the explosion, it pushes you in that direction. So you could try to use it to segregate some of the players on the enemy team.
Try to use or transport to a vent behind them, and 100% use it to push them forward into your team, who then cleans up.
I love it. Gotta clean it up. And speaking of, you could use the second heroic to do just that. This one's called Wing Clip. So when this ability is activated, Nathanos will use his melee weapons to spin around, dealing damage to all enemies in range. Not a big deal, right? We see it with Garrosh. Now, these enemies will not only suffer the damage, but will also receive a 50% slow for a good amount of time. If Nathanos has full stacks from his trait, this will also apply a blight damage over time to the enemies that are hit by it. So not only are you slowed, but you're also taking damage over time and the damage that you got from the beginning. I really want him to feel like the friendly team wants to buff the crap out of him so he can really be an assassin carry in the game.
Yeah, and I like that idea too, because then it's really reliant on your teammates to make you the carry, because you can carry if you make really smart decisions and your team plays safe and you get maybe a level lead. But if they feed you all of that power because you're so good, that's a way to kind of circumvent team shared XP, right?
Yeah, I think definitely circumventing it, because you're just playing the game differently than how we currently do. I mean, it's very hard to have a carry in this game right now. You can make it work, but you still are doing everything you're doing to buff your team up. So maybe adding a little something like this would change it up and make it something that is possible. Who knows? Who knows? That's my thoughts on Nathanos, the Dark Ranger. Summing it all up, you're basically relying on your friendly teammates to buff you to get in there to do these awesome attacks, transporting between vents and just being an undead badass.
Beautiful. And it fits. I love the ranger thing, the arrows, of course. You can't have a ranger without arrows. But of course, the question becomes, how do you do the arrows and make it different from Sylvanas, who is a Dark Ranger herself?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but I think it's definitely doable with this character. And I think that he's a ranger in love. He's a ranger who's attempting to master the art of love.
For the first time in his undead life. Banshee, maybe he likes women in power. Maybe he likes that her eyes are red. We're not sure yet, but I'm sure there will be a love letter hidden somewhere in Battle for Azeroth.
I mean, do you want... I would play an undead hero or an undead character in Warcraft if they looked awesome like that. Right now, they bother me. The models bother me. The undead ones, like, they're all hunched over. You know, nobody wants to have a jaw because that's cool to have, you know, the tongue hanging out of the top of your mouth for some weird reason. And you're gross looking. I think it would be awesome to have somebody that's gross looking but look at least kind of like a humanoid.
Well, that's the thing with the Forsaken, right? I will always believe, because when I started playing WoW, that you played, not you, but undead players were legit video gamers because you weren't playing to look good. Yeah, I mean, you've got bones for knees. You've got no skin there. Your elbow, you've got these claws. I put a belt X on my face, and I had the jaw, but I didn't have lips. They were just teeth, right? But that's because you're not going to be romancing anybody. This isn't Mass Effect.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness.
This is World of Warcraft. You want to strike terror into the hearts of your enemies, and you're going to need some battle scars before that'll happen.
Yeah, you could still look cool though. I mean, like Nathanos looks cool. He looks like, you know, and Sylvanas, for example, looks cool. And all these other undead are just like, in my opinion, of course, they're just kind of like, come on, we need some customization. I would like to be able to stand up straight. I'd like to be able to have skin. Like that would be cool if you could have skin, just be like undead.
You don't like having your spine sticking out of your back because the skin's ripped open from you hunching over the whole time?
Hey, buddy, welcome to the Forsaken. First off, don't even think about standing up straight. So go ahead and bend your back and be hunched over.
You gotta be ready to swipe with your claw, because that's about the only animation you had back in the day, right? With your daggers, you go for a little stab. Right. You go for another stab, and you're still kind of dancing around over.
But my back hurts. Hey, pain is temporary, pride is forever.
That's how fashion works.
That's right. Style is not about comfort. All right, we're going to move on to Kristen's build, but before we do, we have some people that we need to thank as always. Like we talked about at the top of the show, we could talk about it all day, how awesome our patrons are that support this show week after week. Seriously awesome. Thank you so much, everybody that supports the show on patreon.com/HeroesForge. If you too are thinking, man, I want to support this show, it's so good and I love listening to it, head on over to that website and check out our goals. We are $4 away from our goal to bring you Flash Forges for our patrons. Flash Forges are short little episodes where we're going to surprise each other with heroes or characters from these universes or not to make heroic abilities for them. It's going to be short little 15 to 20 minute episodes, and we want to get that goal so that we can bring you more content. Head on over to the website to check it out, and a thank you again to our current patrons. Also, thank you to everybody that's given us a rating on their favorite podcasting app of choice. Those 5-star readings really help the show grow when people search for Heroes of the Storm podcast, which we are part of an awesome community of podcasters and content creators out there. So thank you to all of them, and thank you to all of you for helping make that possible for people to find us. All right, Kristen, let's get into it. Nathanos, what role classification did you go?
Assassin as well. I agree. He is a killer, and he wants you to kill other things. I mean, his entire beginning revolves around taking down enemies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Assassin is definitely the way to go. Great choice. I'm excited to see how you bring his Dark Ranger to life, because I'm reading ahead a little bit here and it looks super cool. So let's get on to it. What is the trait for your Dark Ranger Nathanos Assassin?
Well, the trait I am pulling in silence. I want him to have a really cool silence ability because that seems to be a big part of this Dark Ranger culture is the ability, at least in the Warcraft games. Silence was a big part of it. So a feature of all Dark Rangers, Nathanos has the power to silence those that would fight against him. Every fourth consecutive basic attack on an enemy casts a brief silence. If the enemy is not a hero, this means that if they would attack, the attack does not happen until the silence wears off.
Gosh, such a cool idea. We see stuff like this with Leoric, right? His basic attack swings. You got to pay attention to where you are on that rotation because they do different things. Some of them cleave, some of them don't. Damage, more damage, less damage, whatever. So I love this kind of thing that requires you to be an awesome Nathanos player to get in there and know every 4 attacks I'm going to be able to silence them. Before I go into a team fight, I need to be on my 3rd attack or map my way through this team fight so I know that I'm not just silencing Artanis and I am silencing Sylvanas on the enemy team instead so she can't get that heroic off, so on and so forth.
Exactly. And then think too, an ETC who takes Mosh Pit, maybe your team doesn't have a silence. You can shut him off. You can just turn it off. I mean, sure, you got to get up to 4 basic attacks, and I don't know how fast these attacks are, but on the 4th one, you would do your team a solid.
Totally, and I love how you brought up the Warcraft RTS versions of these Dark Rangers, right? Because this was a unit you could play in the RTS version of Warcraft. Dark Rangers were, and silence was a big part of that. And from my research, this is such an awesome way of incorporating it into Heroes of the Storm. Silences are super powerful. I mean, I've played some games with you, Kristen, where silences have won the battle, right? Because it just goes off at the right time, things happen, and just prevents them from doing something they were planning on doing. So I love the disruption aspect of this. What mount does he ride into the battle?
He's undead, so he's got to have a skeletal steed. It's a must. It is a must. And maybe we can give him that Baron, whatever his name, steed. Rivendell?
Oh, you mean the one from Karazhan?
Yes. Yeah, no. Is it Karazhan? No. The one from, and it's not Skullomance. It's the other one, the other SCH one, not Stranglethorn.
Strathholm?
Strathholm, thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the name either, and that might be close and not right. But yeah, the one of those old dungeons. Yeah, Strathholm.
I once spent an entire week farming just so I could get that. It's a blue undead skeletal mount and it's got little vampire fangs and I love it.
Super cool, super undead, super awesome, and you can ride it as a hunchback undead right on top of it as you ride into battle. It's very cool. What about basic abilities? Hit us with your first one.
All right, the first one is Black Arrow, but this is not as powerful as Sylvanas' Black Arrows. Nathanos' single Black Arrow is still formidable. This single shot deals a lot of damage and applies a dot. Should the enemy die while suffering from this ability, a dark minion spawns and begins pushing a lane. This dark minion is melee, but it does as much damage as a minion archer.
So cool, and you're kind of incorporating last hit into the game here as well, because you're trying to get that last hit with this basic so that if they die, it helps you.
Yeah, that's a great point. A wonderful intro to last hit, because you don't actually need the last hit. You've still got some leeway, kind of like Nazebo, right? If something dies while it has the poison stack on it, Nazebo gets a little ting to his quest and a little bonus mana health. But yeah, so very similar to this. And I love this idea that you could go from lane to lane and bring in a tiny minion to help, because I love the Stitches minion. His little sludge slapper that you can talent into. It brings so much extra damage if you can keep it alive.
Yeah, do you play a lot of Zool with your skeletal minions as you push the battlefield, or maybe Malfurion with his tree?
Oh, I love that. It's just so great, because then you're not alone anymore. And a lot of people disrespect these minions, but you cannot disrespect these summons. They will kick your little booty.
It's true. You know, I find that with the Malfurion tree a lot, because I do take that talent every so often. And if you ignore it, I mean, it can get stacked up and deal some serious damage in there. This is such a cool ability, and especially, what does it look like? Is it like a bigger arrow, like a Hanzo sort of thing, or is this just like a normal shot that maybe has, you know, a purple trail from it, but then you're falling into that Sylvanas category again?
That's true. So maybe a mix of the two. So it's bigger, but it does have that purple color to it. And maybe this this column of smoke that makes a spiral behind it as it shoots forward.
That is too cool. Great idea, man. Pro. All right, second basic ability. What are you hitting us with?
All right, second one. This is another part of the Dark Ranger thing, was life drain. That was another big part of it. And so with this one, the way I'm going to incorporate it is that Nathanos shoots out a barrage of specially crafted arrows that return damage as life to him. These are shot off in quick succession, and he can move and aim during this flurry. So kind of like your cone that you have with your heroic, you've got to go and it's and it's just shooting off, and you can re-aim it really quickly to make the most of this heal.
Super cool. So you're giving an assassin this great heal. We've seen a lot of assassins in the game that have a heal, like Zul'jin, who's got his regeneration. I mean, that is huge on a lot of maps, and it dictates the type of support that you need on that team, and giving an assassin a major heal like that is great. Also, bravo again, this is super cool Dark Ranger stuff, the life drain going on. It plays into the whole Black Mirror thought, it plays into the RTS. I mean, it's such a cool idea. So is he firing each one of these shots with his W like a Sylvanas basic ability, or is he hitting it once and it's automatically firing all of the shots?
It's hitting it once, and then you get a few seconds of basically machine gun, but machine arrow animation, for lack of a better term.
Cool, man. He's got to be fast pulling those arrows out, which is Legolas status. What's your third basic ability?
All right, the third one is called Backhand, and this is something Nathanos had that I wanted to work into it. And I think flavor-wise, you work this in by saying that Nathanos, hearing an insult spoken about his lady, or at least assuming that he did, he closes the distance quickly between he and an enemy. So he charges up to them and backhands them, stunning them briefly with shock at what just happened. Now, after they come out of this very brief stun, I mean, it's a blink of an eye. It's like an interrupt more so than anything. They accept his challenge and can only target Nathanos for a little bit of time after.
Oh, nice. This is a little bit of a warrior thing going on here too. I mean, you're peeling somebody away, and if you peel the right person, like D.Va outside of her mech, you slide in here and then you backhand to D.Va, and then she has to fight you. I mean, that's interesting.
It's the gentlemanly rules of combat. If a challenge is issued to you, the gauntlet is off. You've got to answer. You don't know, but I think that is the coolest thing about medieval battle and stuff like that. I think it's so cool. I used to play Warhammer Fantasy tabletop game, and in one edition of that, you would have these humongous armies. I mean, we're talking like 500 models on the battlefield battling each other, and then you would have a champion in your army, and you could basically point across the battlefield, your champion could, and be like, and challenge the other person on that battlefield. They can only attack you, you can only attack them, and you just like duke it out in the middle of this huge war that's going on. I think that stuff is so cool. It's literally stuff of legend, dating back to the earliest literature that we have. I mean, Iliad, for instance, these one-on-one single combat of the greatest warriors of the age. I think it just speaks to our human nature to want that kind of struggle, and then to just take advantage and win the day.
Yeah, and then have like it being one of the plebeians on the sidelines being like, no, they got that fight. We're gonna just do our own thing. They're gonna do their own thing over there. I think that's super cool. So tell me a little.
I'm an Achilles fan. I'm just pretending to be him.
Rah, sis boom ba, like you're on the corner like cheering on your champion.
Right, stick that sword into that snake.
Oh my. Okay, so I did want to ask about this charge. So are you only able to activate it and if there is someone in range of you to charge, or are you able to use this as a movement ability in the game if no one is around you?
I personally am a bigger fan of this only being activatable when someone is in range.
Yeah.
As fun as those charges are, where you can use them whenever, I hate learning them because there are so many disappointing charges where you're like, haha, I'm gonna punch that guy and stun him as Blaze. But then they've already run one direction, and you end up about 5 minutes behind them, standing there looking around excitedly, and then sadly realizing you charged too little too late.
That's right. Okay, very, very cool idea. The insult is probably my favorite part of that. Would there be audio for this? I mean, obviously.
There would have to be. I mean, if we're gonna, like I said at the beginning, we gotta go whole hog with this lore if we're gonna own it. We can't just halvesies.
That's right. So basically when they call the people in to do voiceover recording, they're like, okay, this is the section of the day where we need you to insult Sylvanas 3 times. 3 different insults for each one of the characters so that, you know, there's no rinse and repeat for our players out there.
Very fair, right? And, you know, it might cost a little extra because you got to pay your voice actors, but maybe they'll do it for free because they love the idea so much that they're going to taunt Nathanos with an insult to the Banshee Queen.
You know, that would be on the show at some point. I mean, since we're going down this path of the awesome path of having an animator on the show and talking about that kind of thing, we need to have a sound designer on the show or someone that does the producing for the voiceovers. Because I want to ask the questions like, what do you do? Okay, so let's say Leoric, right? Maybe a bad example, but Leoric is in the game. He comes in and you're like, okay, Leo, we wrote all of these lines for you. And we wrote lines for the next 15 heroes that are out here. So like, go ahead and just give us everything for this and nobody knows about this and sign this NDA and all that stuff. I mean, they got to bring these people in often, I would think, to be like, all right, new heroes, Nathanos. Okay, Leo, this is what you're going to say to Nathanos now. And also, since you're here, we're also bringing Deckard Cain in, we're bringing so-and-so and so-and-so. So record these lines too. But I think, man, you'd have a pretty steady gig if you locked that in.
Oh, totally. And the same thing, I think, if you get a Disney voice or a Scooby-Doo voice, right? You are set for life. It doesn't matter if it's 5-star or just made for toddlers in the morning. If you're Winnie the Pooh, you are Winnie the Pooh, and you never have to do another gig if you don't want to.
If you're Winnie the Pooh, then you're the Pooh.
The Pooh with a capital P. You get a nice chain with a capital P hanging on it so that everywhere you go, everyone knows.
That's right, that you're the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh Bear.
All right, let's get into heroics. What's your first one?
The first one is To Kill with Purpose. It was the first and the best quest. Collect meat to feed Nathanos' Blighthounds. Full in their bellies, Nathanos calls forth his 2 dogs and selects their targets as they root enemies they manage to catch, not letting go until Nathanos retargets them. Because they are 4-legged, they have quickened movement speed, though they dare not go too far from their master's side.
So cool. Can you max range these hounds? So like if you're able to outrun them, do they eventually disappear? Or are you going to be rooted?
Oh, I think the way I see it is that there's going to be a circular area around Nathanos where the dogs can go. If he sends them too far out, they'll simply run back since they're on a timer. And I don't think they're targetable. I think they're just one of those things where if an enemy is too close and they get rooted, too bad, so sad. You better be able to survive it. And maybe once you're rooted by a dog, that dog's lifespan is shortened. So you can't unfairly keep someone locked down for too long.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And that's super cool. So you're basically creating a stun aura around yourself.
Exactly. But one you can target. So it's not always going for that ETC. We don't want the ETC. Stop it, Poofy. We want that built in. Lock him down.
Did you just call ETC Hoofy?
No, the dog was Hoofy.
Oh.
Bad Hoofy, go get, because one of the dogs is probably going to try to lock down the tank, Garrosh. You're not going to be able to kill Garrosh by the time Pepper disappears. Pepper and Hoofy.
Oh, I love it. I mean, originally, either way, it's funny when you say, Hoofy, stop it, and you're talking to ETC.
That's true. Maybe that's his little nickname that he tried to bury. He got it from his parents when he was a kid, and he became a sick rock star to try and leave the past behind, but his grandma watches every weekend. That's my Hoofy.
At Warped Tour. ETC at Warped Tour. Hoofy on stage. All right, next heroic ability.
All right, next one, Dark Mirror. I mean, it's such a cool idea. And even though it is part of the books, it was still really cool. Books can be cool as well. Read, kids. All right, Dark Mirror. Nathanos. Sorry. I realized I was going up on a tangent, and that's how I brought it back.
I was trying not to interrupt, but I couldn't help it.
All right, Dark Mirror. In Nathanos' transformation, a corpse is used to rebuild him and increase his power. When you activate this, Nathanos is allowed to become more powerful the more allies and enemies that die around him. Minion and Merc deaths provide a small buff, but hero deaths provide the most powerful of all. Choosing this, Nathanael gains the ability to choose what he wants buffed when this trait is activated, or heroic.
Oh, nice. So it's a passive heroic, but if you pick it, you choose... Are you saying you get to choose one of your abilities that you'd like to be buffed? And how often are you choosing just that once, or each time somebody dies around you?
I'm thinking you choose what stat you want to be buffed.
Oh, okay.
Now it's this activatable heroic where you only get those bonuses when they die around you when this is activated.
Oh, cool. Very cool. What does it look like? I want to know what this looks like.
Oh, geez. I would imagine if something dies in battle, they fall down and this black smoke kind of rises up and then shoots into Nathanos' body. And of course, the more powerful he is, the more smoke he's got coming off of him, and maybe his eyes just get redder and bigger.
Yeah, I love that. I love it in the eyes, like the whole, just getting meaner and more forsaken. I think that is such a cool idea. And this is...
Starts hunching over more and more. Jeff goes, no!
Well, I never take a second heroic, Dark Mirror. Why not? Because I don't want him to look like every other Forsaken out there. Come on, people.
I want him to look cool. Sorry, you had a question.
Maybe it like transforms him from his cool Battle for Azeroth model back into like his OG, with the hood and the normal undead model of older. I can't remember my other question. It was not important, clearly. This is the more important conversation.
Oh, it is. And I love that idea that instead of getting cooler looking, he would get moldier. And we're going back. You can see the pixels and you're going, no, let's not go back to those days, please. They were great in my memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was some crazy stuff going on there in our memories. Great build, Kristen. Very, very cool. How do you sum this whole thing up here? What do you think is going on entirely?
Airily escaping death. I know that one's very, very rough. But it made me giggle. I was thinking I would do the Green Lantern's might thing and incorporate Sylvanas somehow, but I wanted it short and sweet.
I love it. Super, super, super cool. Very, very neat ideas all together. I mean, there is some really, really great stuff in your build, Kristen. I love the incorporation of the Dark Rangers all together. It's just super, super cool. I love it. It's got that RTS feel. It's got that awesome Black Mirror ability at the end that I would never take, and then it's got some really, really cool feels for undead entirely. So Sylvanas' lover has been brought to life by both of us, but before we can get to that point, we need to say, what are our specialty skins and dance moves? Let's get on with the first specialty skin. Kristen, what's your idea for that?
I'm going with Nathanos the Lightcaller, or Nathanos Lightcaller. And if basically he had become a paladin, this is what he would look like. And it would just be some epic paladin skin, and his pony would still be skeletal, but it would be decked out in the most awesome armor ever.
That's awesome. It's so cool. I'm surprised, though, that you're bringing a paladin to life here.
I know, I'm surprised too, but I'm trying to accept the things that I can't change in this world and understand where we all come from so that we can create a more peaceful existence.
That's right. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, my skin ideas over here are as follows. So I think you could do his... It's so funny I wrote this down after we've been talking this. You can do his old school skin where he could be, like this a Forsaken that we all know. And then also you could do like a gangster Nathanos who's wearing like a hoodie, because he does wear a hood in this in one of the cutscenes or one of the scenes that you can see him in. He does wear this hood, so you could make him like that. Or he could just be a national park ranger.
Oh, he would, and he'd have his little pets walking along with him as he checks the forest. Would he have one of those brown outfits that the American park rangers wear?
Yep. So he'd have the whole full-on outfit, and then of course he'd have a bow on his back and all that kind of stuff, and his hounds would be like actual dogs.
I love it. Now, of the three, which one would you want to see most?
Probably the park ranger, just because I really am into the whole occupation skins. That's what I really want.
It all started with Janitor Leoric.
That's right. We can't talk about it because then I'll just continue talking about it forever. Let's get on to dance moves here. The first dance move idea is from me, and it's called the Power Rangers 90s Dance Off. So you can clearly tell that when I was searching YouTube for what would a Rangers dance move be, this 90s Power Rangers video came up, and it's hilarious. So I'm going to link it in the show notes so you can check it out. I'll also put it in chat after this is over here. And then we can talk about it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's just entertaining.
Please watch it, everyone listening. There's this wonderful moment. It's the Black Ranger, and he introduces his friends, the Red Ranger and the Yellow Ranger, and he's got these kids around him, and he goes, "You know these two, don't you?" And the kids excitedly go, "Yeah, yeah!" And then the Black Ranger laughs. "Well, let me introduce them to you anyway." The poor kid was probably told to say that, but it came off very serious and mood killing.
It's great. I mean, the lines are great. The dancing is even better. You're gonna have to check this out. I'll make sure to link it right after the show so you can check it out in there. And it's worth watching the whole thing, which I did end up watching the entire video, just laughing to myself, and thought, you know what, this is how a ranger would dance.
Exactly, and it teaches you a safe way to battle your bullies over your girl, a girl that you two are fighting about.
That's right, but she's not. She clearly states that she's not the Power Ranger's girlfriend.
Yes, exactly. She is her own girl, but it's still flattering to see men fight.
Dance fight.
Dance fight. Yes, not actual fight. You don't want to hurt each other. That's not the point.
If I danced like that, I'd hurt myself. Let's talk about your dance moves. What's your idea here?
It's about the extent of my dance moves, Jeff. I think Nathanos, since he's undead, we got to do Thriller. And I think it would be the part of the Thriller where they have their little claws up in front of them, and then they swing them from side to side, and then they choose a side and walk in that direction.
Love it. I mean, Thriller is one of the most iconic dances ever, right? I mean, everybody knows what that is. Yeah.
And it was one of those revolutionary music videos, too, because wasn't it one of the first to tell a story?
Yeah, it was like a feature film, but in a music video kind of thing. So, yeah, it was super cool. Great ideas all around. So now we can officially say that Nathanos has been forged. So cool. I think Nathanos is making his way on the scene, and who knows, maybe we'll see. I'm crossing my fingers. I know we have a ton of Warcraft heroes in the game already, but I'm hoping that as we get closer and closer to Battle for Azeroth, that maybe we see heroes like Nathanos or Anduin brought into the game as we get closer to the release of it. I'm going to say this right now on episode 111. I think that Anduin will be released when Battle for Azeroth goes live. I bet that will be the hero that happens around that time.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be a Warcraft event, because how could there not be, right? It's too good of a chance to not have a tie-in. And we've already got the other major players, Sylvanas and Greymane, in the game. So, yeah, absolutely, Anduin's going to be brought in at that point.
Yeah, so we're calling it right here on episode 111. We're going to come back to this episode once we figure out that is the truth and say, see, we called it, even though that doesn't seem like it. Even if it doesn't seem like a super hard prediction, I think that that's definitely something that we will see. Another support in the game. Possibly even the next support could be Anduin. King Anduin, some would say. All right, Kristen, what do you think from these ideas that we talked about today? What idea do you think lives in an area that we might be able to bring into the Nexus? What do you think that is?
The vent jumping. Oh my goodness, the vent jumping. Why would you not have a vent jumping hero that does it faster than Dahaka? Because I know it jumps vents.
There'd be really cool animation you could do where once they do the transformation from the vents, like maybe the steam quickly shoots up and goes over to the other side. And if you want to make it really difficult, it actually like builds their body in steam, but really quickly as it comes from one side to the other. There's some really cool ideas all related to that would definitely work in this game. Very cool. We're going to call Nathanos there. Kristen, where can people find you on the interwebs when you're not doing this show?
You can find me on the interwebs at _Kristen Ashton _ over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Very cool. What are you working on your stream?
On the stream, we are moving into Deus Ex, the series of games, the original Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. But it'll be interesting because they're kind of buggy. So we're trying to make the original work, but so far the audio keeps cutting out. They'll say something, 5 seconds in, it'll cut to the other person. So I have no idea what the intro story is yet.
Man, that makes it really difficult, and especially when you're playing with a real meaty game like that, it's going to make it really hard. So hopefully it all gets ironed out and you can take charge of those massive games that I know a lot of people really like. So good luck in that adventure. If you're looking for me, you can find me right here on HeroesForge. We record the show live every Sunday at 12 noon Pacific right here on twitch.tv/AmoveTV, because we are so lucky to be part of the AmoveTV Entertainment and Podcast Network. Make sure you check out AmoveTV for more great esports and video game podcasts. This show can be downloaded on any of your favorite podcasting apps, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. Also, you can check out our YouTube, which is youtube.com/HeroesForge. Check out our Patreon, which is patreon.com/HeroesForge. Follow us on Twitter at Forge Heroes, where you can vote on which one of the two builds you thought won the night here on this lovely Sunday, which one you thought was your favorite, and your vote is your own. You can vote for one that you thought was the funniest, one you thought that was the best, one you thought incorporated Nathanos the best way. Vote away. The winner gets to pick the hero for next week, and we haven't been plugging that a whole lot, so make sure you get over there and follow us at Forge Heroes on Twitter. That's also where all of the show news comes from, and you can check it all out right there on our Twitter feed. Also, check out our website. It's really where you can find everything that you need to know about this show. It's heroesforge.club, and you can check out all 110 backlogged episodes of this, because we've been doing it for more than 2 years, so there's a lot of heroes and a lot of talk out there of some really cool stuff. All right, Kristen, Nathanos, I'm writing a letter, an invisible letter to Blizzard right now and saying, hey, Blizzard, how about this? Allied race for the Horde that is undead that looks like Nathanos.
That's pretty cool. It's a great, you're not wrong to want a more, I guess, less uniformity when it comes to the undead models, because, they're humans, but they don't really keep much of their humanity.
No, they don't. And I mean, then we have Sylvanas and Nathanos and some other characters that look like that, and it's really cool, and it's what I want, but not more than the Kulturus humans. I want that first, Blizzard. Anyway, now that I'm done with my Christmas list of things that I want from Blizzard. I think I'll go spend some money in some of their games. Very cool. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We're going to call it there, and we're going to catch you all in the real world.